The thing wearing my daughter's face smiled at me from across the dinner table, and I knew I had to kill it tonight. I should have seen the signs earlier. I should have noticed when Sarah stopped blinking, when her laugh became just half a second too long, when she started watching me sleep. But grief makes you stupid. Grief makes you see what you want to see, even when the truth is staring back at you with eyes that don't reflect light anymore. My daughter died 3 weeks ago. What came back wasn't her. It started the day after the funeral. I woke up to find Sarah standing at the foot of my bed, wearing the same dress we'd buried her in. The soil was still fresh under her fingernails. She didn't say anything at first, just stood there, head tilted at an angle that made my spine ice over. Then she smiled, and that smile stretched just a little too wide, pulling her cheeks taut in a way that revealed too many teeth. "Hi, Daddy," she whispered, and her voice sounded like it was coming from the bottom of a well. I thought I was having a breakdown. I thought the pills the doctor gave me were making me hallucinate. I stumbled out of bed, fell to my knees, and when I looked up again, she was gone. Just an empty room and the smell of turned earth. But she came back the next night, and the night after that, each time a little more solid, a little more real, until one morning I came downstairs and found her making breakfast, humming a song I'd never heard before, something discordant and wrong that made my teeth ache. "I made pancakes," she said, turning to face me with that stretched smile. Just like old times. The pancakes were burnt black. Smoke filled the kitchen. She hadn't turned the stove on. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. But she looked so much like Sarah, sounded so much like her, that some broken part of me couldn't let go. My wife had left me 2 years before the accident. Sarah was all I had, and now something was giving her back to me, and I was too weak, too desperate to question it. So I played along. I pretended everything was normal. I pretended I didn't notice how she never ate, just moved food around her plate while watching me with unblinking eyes. I pretended I didn't hear her whispering to the walls when she thought I was asleep. I pretended the neighbors hadn't started avoiding our house, crossing the street when they saw us coming. For 2 weeks I lived in a nightmare disguised as a miracle, and I told myself I was okay with it. But then Mrs. Patterson disappeared. She lived 3 houses down, a widow in her 70s who used to bring Sarah cookies. I saw her walking her dog past her house one evening, saw Sarah wave at her from the window. That too wide smile plastered across her face. Mrs. Patterson waved back, but I saw her hand trembling, saw the fear in her eyes. The next morning, they found Mrs. Patterson's dog wandering the street, leash dragging behind it. The leash had been chewed through, not cut, chewed, and Mrs. Patterson was gone. They searched for 3 days, found her buried in the woods behind her house, 6 feet down in soil so freshly turned it looked like someone had dug it with their bare hands. Her body was intact except for one detail that made the police officer vomit on his own shoes. Her eyes were missing, just empty sockets, cleaned out so thoroughly there wasn't even blood. When I got home that night, Sarah was waiting in the kitchen. She was sitting at the table, hands folded neatly in front of her, and she was humming that same wrong song. "They'll think you did it," she said without looking at me. "They always suspect the father." My blood turned to slush. "What did you do?" She turned her head, and in the dim light of the kitchen, I saw it clearly for the first time. Her eyes weren't brown anymore. They were bright, vivid blue. Patterson's eyes staring out from my dead daughter's face. "I needed to see better," she said simply. Mine weren't working anymore. I ran. I locked myself in my bedroom and called the police, but when they arrived, Sarah answered the door looking perfectly normal, perfectly alive. She told them I was grieving, that I was unstable, that I'd been acting strange since the funeral. She cried real tears. She sounded exactly like the daughter I'd lost. The police left, but before they did, the younger officer pulled me aside and told me to get help. told me that grief could do terrible things to a person's mind, I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe I was insane, because insanity I could treat. Insanity had solutions. But that night, I heard Sarah leave the house, heard the back door creak open around 2 in the morning. I watched from my window as she walked barefoot across the lawn and disappeared into the woods, moving with a fluid grace that Sarah had never possessed in life. She was humming. I followed her. The moon was full, turning the woods into a maze of silver shadows. I stayed far back, moving as quietly as I could, watching as Sarah wound deeper and deeper into the forest. She never looked back, never hesitated. She walked like she knew exactly where she was going. After 20 minutes, she stopped in a clearing I'd never seen before. The trees formed a perfect circle, and in the center was a hole. Not a natural hole. This one had been dug with purpose, the sides straight and smooth, going down into darkness so complete it seemed to swallow the moonlight. Sarah stood at the edge and tilted her head back, opening her mouth and possibly wide, wider than any human jaw could stretch, and from that dark cavity came a sound that made every animal in the forest go silent, a low vibrating hum that I felt in my bones, in my teeth, in the base of my skull. She was calling something. I watched in frozen horror as things began to emerge from the hole. Pale, writhing things with too many limbs, dragging themselves up from whatever depth they'd been dwelling in. They gathered around Sarah like children around a parent, and she reached down to touch them with a tenderness that made me want to vomit. Then she spoke, and her voice wasn't Sarah's anymore. It was layered, multiple voices speaking in unison, some high, some low, some barely human. Soon, she said to the things, soon we'll have enough. I backed away slowly, carefully, praying she wouldn't turn around. But as I took my third step, a branch snapped under my foot. The sound cut through the forest like a gunshot. Every pale thing turned to look at me at once, and so did Sarah. "Daddy," she said, and her smile stretched so wide I could see the back of her throat. "I was wondering when you'd join us." I ran harder than I'd ever run in my life, branches tearing at my face, words trying to trip me, and behind me I could hear them coming, not footsteps, something else, something that sounded wet and heavy, moving fast through the undergrowth. I made it home and locked every door, every window. I pushed furniture against the entrances and sat in the corner of my bedroom with a baseball bat, waiting for them to break in. But they didn't come. Instead, Sarah knocked politely on the front door an hour later. I could see her through the peephole, standing on the porch in her pajamas, looking small and scared, and exactly like my daughter. "Daddy, please let me in," she called. "I'm cold. I'm scared." I didn't answer. I couldn't. She knocked again, softer this time. "Daddy, it's me. I don't know what you saw, but it's me. I'm your Sarah. Please don't leave me out here alone." Her voice cracked on the last word, and I almost broke. Almost opened the door, because even knowing what I knew, even having seen what I'd seen, part of me still heard my daughter begging to come home. "Please," she whispered, and I could hear her crying. "I'm so cold. I just want to come home. I just want my daddy." I pressed my hands over my ears, squeezed my eyes shut, and waited. She stopped knocking around Dawn. When I finally worked up the courage to look, she was gone. I spent the day researching, locked in my house, searching for answers on my laptop while jumping at every sound. I found stories, old stories, folklore from a dozen different cultures, all saying the same thing in different words. Sometimes the dead don't stay dead. Sometimes something else uses them, wears them like a suit, learning to be human by copying what it sees. And sometimes these things are patient. They'll wait decades, slowly gathering strength, slowly bringing others across until there are enough of them to stop pretending. The stories all agreed on one point: you can't kill what's already dead. But you can destroy the vessel it's using. You can burn it, break it, scatter it so thoroughly that it can't maintain its shape anymore. That's when I knew what I had to do. I waited until nightfall, gathered everything I needed, gasoline from the garage, my father's old hunting knife, rope. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely tie the knots, but I managed. Sarah came home just after midnight. I heard her key in the lock, heard her call off for me in that perfect imitation of my daughter's voice. "Daddy, are you home? I'm sorry about last night. I don't know what happened." Think I was sleepwalking? I didn't answer. I waited in the kitchen, knife hidden behind my back, trying to keep my breathing steady. She found me there, standing in the dark. For a moment, she just looked at me, head tilted, and I saw something flicker across her face, something calculating. "Are you okay?" she asked, taking a step closer. "You look upset." "Stay where you are," I said, and my voice barely worked. She stopped, smiled, that same too wide smile that showed too many teeth. She said softly, "Don't you finally figured it out?" I didn't say anything. My hand tightened on the knife. "That's okay," she continued, her voice shifting, becoming layered again with those other voices underneath. "We're almost ready anyway. We have enough now. Enough to stop hiding." "Enough what?" I forced myself to ask. "Bodies," she said simply. "We need bodies to cross over. Living ones work best, but dead ones are easier to take." Your Sarah was so fresh, so perfect. She let us in without even knowing. Grief opens doors, Daddy. It makes holes in the world, and we slipped through. My vision blurred with tears. Where is she? Where's my real daughter? The thing wearing Sarah's face tilted its head, considering. She's here, part of her anyway, enough that we could learn to be her. We studied her memories, her voice, her mannerisms. We got pretty good, didn't we? You almost believed it was really her. "Stop," I whispered. "Please stop using her voice." "Why?" it asked, and suddenly Sarah's voice was gone, replaced by something cold and alien. "You wanted her back. We gave her to you. We could have taken you that first night, added you to our collection, but we waited. We let you have a few more weeks with your daughter. Wasn't that kind?" It took another step closer. I raised the knife. "You can't kill me," it said, amused. "This body is already dead. You'd just be destroying your daughter's corpse. Can you do that? Can you look at her face?" And I lunged. The knife went in just below her ribs. The same place Sarah used to complain about getting stitches when she ran. The thing staggered back, looking down at the blade with something like surprise. "Oh," it said. "You actually did it." Black liquid poured from the wound, thick and oily, staining Sarah's clothes. The thing looked up at me, and for just a second, I saw my daughter's real eyes looking back. Confused, scared, a glimpse of whatever was left of her trapped inside this thing. "Daddy?" Sarah's real voice, small and frightened. "Daddy, it hurts." "Why does it hurt?" My hand spasmed on the knife. "Sarah, I'm cold," she whimpered, and she sounded 6 years old again. "I'm so cold, I can't find my way home." "It's dark here, Daddy. It's so dark, and I can't." Her voice cut off as the thing regained control. The confusion in her eyes vanished, replaced by rage. "You'll pay for that," it snarled, and Sarah's face began to change. The skin rippled, shifted, revealing glimpses of what was underneath, something pale and segmented, something that had never been human. I pulled the knife out and stabbed again, and again. Each impact sent more of that black liquid spraying across the kitchen, across me, burning where it touched my skin. The thing that had been Sarah screamed, but it wasn't Sarah's scream. It was the sound of 1,000 voices shrieking in unison. A noise so terrible I felt something in my ear rupture. It fell to its knees, Sarah's body convulsing. The skin split open along her spine, and pale, writhing appendages emerged, thrashing wildly. I stumbled back, grabbing the can of gasoline, dousing the thing as it tried to crawl toward me. "You can't stop us," it gurgled, black liquid pouring from Sarah's mouth. "We're already here, all over your town, in your neighbors, in your friends. We've been here for weeks, learning, preparing. Kill this body and we'll just take another. We'll take yours, we'll wear your face, and no one will ever know." I pulled out the lighter. My hand was shaking so badly, it took 3 tries to get it lit. "Maybe," I said, "but you won't be wearing hers." I dropped the lighter. Sarah's body went up like kindling. The thing inside screamed, really screamed this time, thrashing as the flames consumed it. I watched my daughter's face melt, watched her hair burn away, watched the pale thing underneath writhe and blacken, and finally go still. The smell was worse than anything I could have imagined. Burning flesh mixed with something chemical, something wrong. I staggered outside and vomited in the yard, my whole body shaking. Behind me, my house began to burn. I'd used too much gasoline. The flames spread fast, catching the curtains, the furniture, climbing the walls. I should have run, should have called for help, but I just stood there and watched it burn. Watched my home, my memories, my daughter's real body, all of it consumed by fire. The fire department came too late to save anything. They found me sitting on the curb, covered in soot and that strange black liquid, staring at the smoking remains. I didn't resist when the police put me in handcuffs. Didn't try to explain. What could I possibly say that would make me sound insane? They charged me with arson, with desecrating a corpse, with murder, though they couldn't explain whose body they'd found in the ruins. Burned beyond recognition and somehow wrong, the bones too numerous, too strangely shaped. I've been in this psychiatric facility for 6 months now. They've diagnosed me with psychotic grief disorder. They say I had a complete break from reality after my daughter's death, that I dug up her grave, brought her body home, and convinced myself she was alive, that the guilt drove me to destroy the evidence. Maybe they're right. Maybe I am insane. Maybe everything I saw was a hallucination born from grief and guilt and too many sleeping pills. But 3 days ago, they brought on a new patient. A young woman who keeps insisting her husband isn't her husband anymore, that something is wearing his face, learning to be him, and nobody will believe her. Yesterday I saw one of the orderlies standing in the corner of the day room, absolutely motionless, head tilted at that familiar wrong angle. He stood there for 20 minutes without blinking, just watching the patients with eyes that didn't reflect the light. This morning I heard that same humming, that discordant, wrong melody that makes my teeth ache. It was coming from the room next to mine. And last night, I woke up to find my doctor standing at the foot of my bed, smiling that too wide smile. "Hello, Michael," she said, and her voice had layers underneath it. "We've been looking for you. We have so much to discuss. I'm writing this during my 15-minute internet time. I'm going to try to post it somewhere, anywhere, hoping someone will see it, hoping someone will believe me, because they're here, they're in this hospital, they're in the staff, maybe in the patients too, and I'm locked in here with them, with no way out, watching as more and more familiar faces take on that subtle wrongness, that tilt to the head, that too wide smile. They're going to come for me tonight. I know they are. My doctor has already told me we're having a special session after dinner. Private. Just the two of us. I thought burning Sarah would stop them. I thought destroying the vessel would send them back to wherever they came from. But I was wrong. They don't need Sarah anymore. They have a whole hospital full of bodies to choose from. And this time when they take me, there won't be anyone left who knows the truth. And to stop them, they'll walk out of here wearing the faces of doctors and nurses and patients, and they'll spread into the city, into the world, and no one will ever know. I killed my daughter for nothing. I burned her body, destroyed the last piece of her that existed in this world, and it didn't matter. It didn't stop anything. The thing I killed in my kitchen was telling the truth. They're already everywhere, and tonight they're coming to make me one of them. If you're reading this, if this message somehow gets out, don't trust anyone who seems just slightly off. Don't trust the people who smile too wide, who tilt their heads at wrong angles, who watch you without blinking. And if someone you love dies and comes back, no matter how much they look like them, sound like them, act like them, don't let them in. Because what you're letting into your home isn't your loved one. It's something that learned to wear their face. And by the time you realize the truth, it'll be too late. It's too late for me. It was too late the moment I let her back in. The moment I chose grief over truth. I can hear footsteps in the hallway now. Slow, deliberate, multiple sets moving in perfect synchronization. They're coming. God help me.